when should one start writing answers for UPSC mains as a practice? This is a question that haunts almost every single aspirant when they begin their preparation, which almost leaves them in a state of confusion. In order to address this question, I'm taking the help of GS1 2021 mains question. The first question, that is, evaluate the nature of Bhakti literature and its contribution to Indian culture. As such, this is not an analysis or an explanation for this question, but since we are already using that question, I'm also trying to present an answer which I think is ideal for this question. So before we get into the answer, what is the expectation from a candidate when they're talking about answer writing? In this exam preparation, there are various phases. Step 1 is acquisition of knowledge. This is where information is used. Now, it is not the information that is really important for mains examination. Of course, it is important, but that is not the only expectation. It is the reflection or the presentation of the wisdom that you have gained from this information. That is what the examiner is expecting from the candidate. Now, a simple tip when we are preparing for history: whenever we are trying to look at a topic, you have to carry out a temporal and spatial analysis, according to me. Now, what do you mean by temporal analysis and spatial analysis? In this case, let us take this example. It will be easier. We are talking about Bhakti period. Now, anyone who is writing mains is expected to know which time period this phenomenon of Bhakti happened, or the Bhakti period is from the medieval ages. Everyone knows this. So, as soon as one sees the question, you should be able to place Bhakti period in medieval history. This is the basic awareness expected from a candidate. So those who are preparing for this examination, the first thing that you need to know as far as history is considered is timeline, chronological order. The second thing is, often candidates overlook this particular factor, that is spatial analysis. So when we're talking about a specific phenomenon, is it uniform across the country? Like, say for example, did Bhakti period start at the snap of a finger across the country from south to north, east, west? Obviously not. So there are some regional variations, and you should reflect this understanding in your answer. Now, this entire thing should be presented, and that presentation should be precise and concise. So this is the expectation behind answer writing. Now, the problem with starting answer writing on day one is you just have the information but not the wisdom, because you pick up a topic on day one, you gather information, you do not give enough time to understand the topic and reflect and understand the changes in historic time period. Like, say for example, if you are reading Bhakti period in isolation, you will just remember the information, but you will not get the ability to understand the key takeaways from this period. So this is the wisdom aspect. Obviously, you can work on your presentation only when you have this second aspect of wisdom. So the problem is lack of continuity in information. You're only trying to dump yourself with more and more information without trying to understand the pattern. Now, what am I talking about here? Let me elaborate. So as soon as you see the question on Bhakti period, you should try to have that ability to instantly imagine the socio-economic conditions of that time period. So these socio-economic conditions are in a way a reaction to the status quo existing in ancient India. So this is the basic understanding that you need to have while you're reading medieval history. This is the basic common sense that you have to keep in mind. Now, what are the changes in this period? You have to understand this. In ancient India, there is some rigidity, growing rigidity. Rigidity in terms of what? In social life. So this social rigidity was challenged by Buddhism and Jainism. But the same challenges were faced within Buddhism and Jainism also, and Hinduism tried to reform. So this Bhakti period is that age of reformation where social change was happening. So this is the context of this question. Now, when we are talking about literature, what is literature trying to do? It is obviously trying to reflect the same socioeconomic conditions in writing or through poems or through any art form. So when the question about nature of Bhakti period is asked in the examination, what a candidate must not do is go around searching for information, more and more information. You should not try to Google more, do PhD on all these thinkers and gather more information as in the form of examples. Whatever examples and whatever information we need is already there in the 12th class NCRT theme 6. So theme 6 is about Bhakti period, and how this age has marked a significant departure from the ancient India. So the first thing that you have to show to the examiner is that you have understood in the opening line of your answer. How do you do that? So the opening line of this question can be something like, Bhakti period's literature reflects the dynamism and diversity of the times which challenge the existing social structures. This single sentence can actually communicate that you have understood the demand of the question to the examiner. Now, what follows will be the body of the answer, and the content for this is again available in NCRT, but this is where your wisdom comes into picture. You can't directly vomit every point that you have read in that chapter. This answer is specifically about literature. So when you're talking about literature, and again when you're talking about literature, there are two parts to this question. One, the nature. So you have to reflect how dynamism and diversity was exhibited by this literature. And the second part of the question is its impact on culture. So we'll be starting with the nature question. So what kind of dynamism and diversity was exhibited? Let us understand. So what is the nature like? The first point is that it is egalitarian in nature, because you have poet saints from Alvar and Nayanar sects who challenge the Brahminical traditions. You see the growth of poet saints who compiled works like Nalaira Divya Prabandham. And again, the second point is, in the period prior to the Bhakti period, Shudras and women were not supposed to have this religious liberation. That trend has been shifted, and you can see that there is gender equality, because poet saints who are women like Andal or Karaikar Amyar, you can see their works in prominence in southern part of the country. When you take a look at the reach of this movement, the nature, it is focused on masses. And how did that happen? Because of the growth of vernacular emphasis from Sanskrit. They were challenging the status quo that was existing in ancient India and moved towards vernaculars. So you have languages like Braj Bhasha, Kannada, Telugu, Marathi, which grow in prominence because of this Bhakti period. The next thing is, you can also see that there is inter-religious exchange. There is a spirit of tolerance, because you can see in Sikhism, the thoughts and reflections of the Bhakti saints like Kabir Das, etc., were incorporated into their holy texts. So this is one more aspect. And when you're talking about Bhakti as a cultural force, it has unified different sects across the country, because you can say, as an example, Hanuman Chalisa is read throughout the country. So this can form the first half of the answer, that is the nature. Now all this information is available in your basic text itself. I am taking the examples from those texts only. The second part of the question, how exactly is it impacting culture? When you have to talk about the impact on culture, you can be very confused where to start and where to begin. So in order to reduce that confusion, you can probably take a standard textbook or even your syllabus and try to think of various parameters or the subheadings under what constitute culture. So it can be arts, music, language, philosophy, and how it impacts religion. Now, religion here means sectarian growth. So this is specific to this question. So when we're talking about arts and music, you see the growth of literature or even music in the form of qawwalis due to the influence of Sufism, or kirtans, bhajans, etc. in this Bhakti period. There is a growing emphasis on literature in local languages, and that is how Punjabi and Marathi as languages grew in this period. So, Hinduism, or Sanatan Dharma, as it was then called, witnessed the growth of new philosophies like Visishtadvaita, Dvaita, and this again has a predominant impact on the culture. It is during this time that you will see a lot of sects across northern part of the country, especially Madhya Pradesh, Haryana, etc. There was a lot of influence of local saints who impacted or shaped the life of people in that region. So there was a growing tendency towards spirituality, and this spirituality has again reflected itself in art forms like painting. Like if you take the case of Rajasthani paintings, there is a predominance of the exhibition of the cult of Krishna and those religious themes in those paintings. Again, this is due to the impact of Bhakti period. So this is the impact on culture. However, on a concluding remark, you can say that the movement, however, did not culminate into a political awakening. So this political aspect, again, we will witness in the 19th century socio-religious reforms. Not to mention in this answer, I'm just telling you since the context has already come. So just mention it and the answer will look complete. So this is the expectation. There is a need to exhibit that you have the information and the wisdom to organize it. The major problem here is not information, you must have realized. So what is a good time to start answer writing? The answer to this question depends on how well you are able to understand the topic understanding. So this is what we've been trying to do on this Telegram channel, Hindu Highlights. So the reason for such an elaborate breakup of this particular example is to communicate the idea that presentation will come only when you understand the topic in its entirety, and this understanding will happen over a period of time. Only when you have enough information on hand, you will be able to process it and give it a proper thought structure. So the basic information that you need to have is the information that you have in NCRTs. So don't go by chapter or a topic by topic method of picking information and then extending it to 3 or 4 hours in a single day and feel content that you are actually practicing answer writing. That will not really add value, in my opinion. What really adds value is a timed test, at least of 90 minutes. A time test of 90 minutes to exhibit the same level of clarity and execution in the 10th question. That is, if you're writing 10 questions, the same level of enthusiasm that you have in the first question should also be present in the 10th question. So that is the real-time scenario. So you can brainstorm various questions and ideas every single day, but the only answer writing practice that really counts, according to me, is this real-time scenario. So the rest is up to you. So that's it for now. If you like this video and if you want the analysis of the rest of the questions of mains, please let me know in the comments. That's it for now. Thanks for watching this.